you give us the basic, simple explanation as to why this conflict in the Middle East is driving up oil prices and prices at the pump here?
Very simply put, oil markets are globally integrated. What happens somewhere in the world affects prices everywhere. And right now, due to the hostilities in the Middle East, we see the Strait of Hormuz actually being blocked. Traffic isn't going through the Strait of Hormuz, and that is about 20% of the global oil supply. So this is a very, very significant amount of oil that is missing and that the market cannot replace overnight.
How much of that supply are we relying on here in Canada?
Yeah, indirectly, we're relying on all the oil in the world because as soon as there is a bottleneck somewhere, there is demand for oil from everywhere. And that means supplies from North America are basically filling the gap that has now actually shown up in Asia. Most of the oil that's going through the Strait of Hormuz is shipped to Asian countries, China and India in particular. But as they're falling short, they are now importing oil from everywhere else they can.
As this conflict has spread, energy infrastructure has been hit as well. What impact might that have?
Yeah, so the long-term impact remains to be seen because right now it's just the shipping that is affected. But if production facilities are affected as well, that could have a long-lasting impact because repairing and maintaining these facilities, if they had been targeted in attacks, that could take weeks, could take months, and that could actually disrupt oil supply for much longer than markets anticipate even now.
Besides what Canadians are seeing as they go to gas stations, what are the other parts of the economy that could be impacted by rising oil prices?
Yeah, the entire supply chain relies on energy, and gasoline and diesel fuel is, of course, used in transportation. Everything from airlines to ground transportation to the trucking business. So these are higher costs that, if they persist, will be passed on to consumers and through the supply chain. So there will be an inflationary effect that will pervade through almost the entire economy.
Is there anything that the Canadian government can do about that right now?
Not really. These are global oil markets, and we're sort of standing aside here. The markets are integrated, and that's not going to change. That means the only thing we can do is adjust our consumption of gasoline and diesel fuels. And that is something where the higher prices will provide the signal to the market to do that.
And Werner, does this rise in prices then and how long it lasts, does that rely solely on how long the conflict itself goes?
Essentially, yes. And that will, of course, potentially even last longer if there is damage to infrastructure. So any infrastructure damage could well exceed the duration of the conflict. And so there is significant worries that as this conflict drags on, that the Gulf states that are protecting the infrastructure right now will be running out of munitions to do so. And if that happens, their facilities and production facilities could be very vulnerable.
Werner, thank you so much for this.
My pleasure.